Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville for Monday, December 14th, 2015, our last meeting of the year. And I'll now call this session to order. I would invite everyone to rise and join Council in singing O Canada. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. And you were all in such good voice, I should invite you all to stay after the meeting and we'll sing Christmas carols. Council, we have regrets from Councillor Robinson and Councillor Knoll, and I'll ask if there are any declarations of pecuniary interest. I see none, Madam Clerk. Council, can I turn your attention to the minutes of the previous council meetings and look for a motion? Councillor Duddick and a seconder, Councillor Adams. So this is a motion to approve the minutes as presented, as listed in the agenda. All in favor? Opposed, if any? The minutes are adopted. Now, I have the great pleasure of a public presentation to our distinguished former colleague, who is now a member of Parliament. And I'm referring, of course, to the very happy lady in the back there, former councillor and now member of Parliament, Pam Demoff. And if you would join me over here, I'll present our memorial, our memento gift. You know, Councillor Demoff, there have been quite a few members of council who've tried to turn a seat on council into a seat in Parliament, but I think only one has ever done it before you, and that was Bonnie Brown.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Pam. So now we will turn to regular business. As a result of the discussion at the Administrative Services Committee last week. We have some registered delegations concerning item 5 on that agenda. And Madam Clerk, would you call the first delegation?
Yes, the first delegation is Mr. Sandhu, here to speak to item 5. Is Mr. Sandhu in the audience?
Karanjit Sandhu? Well, Madam Clerk, why don't you call the next delegation?
We'll try number 2, Manveer Sata.
Manveer Sata.
No.
Let's try the next one.
Ergun Dazenli.
Mr. Dzunley.
Okay.
All right, Council, in that case, we now turn to the standing committee reports. And I guess we'll give the floor to Budget Chair Councillor Adams to introduce or discuss the 2016 budget.
I'm hoping it might show up on the screens. Look, there it is. Thank you very, very much. I'm here to give you your annual dose of Budget 101 about the town's budget for not only your benefit, but the members of the public as well. And this year is a special year because in this year we will be passing 2 budgets because of the election year that has just passed. So on behalf of the Budget Committee, I'd like to share a few words about the recommended 2016 budget. First of all, I want to say that Oakville ranks at the top of the list when measuring municipal fiscal health. University of Toronto professor Enid Slack's 2015 book, Is Your City Healthy? Measuring Urban Fiscal Health, looks at elements of fiscal health for cities. Slack is Canada's top academic expert on municipal finance, and her book explores a number of ways of measuring fiscal health, and her book lists Oakville as the municipality in Ontario with the highest fiscal health. In fact, Oakville's health is considered 32% stronger than the second-place city. And the findings that led Slack to rank Oakville as number 1 included debt-to-tax ratios, low tax arrears, revenue-raising capacity, estimates of the fiscal gap, and other financial factors that are detailed in her book. And with the highest rating for financial health, Oakville is very well placed to meet the financial and service needs of our community now and into the future. This means, as an Oakville resident, you can continue to feel confident in the high level of services and programs that the town provides, as well as our fiscal health. So as a council, we're going to continue to keep our town finances strong and stable, and our property tax increases in line with inflation, and together we can be sure to keep our number 1 ranking for municipal fiscal health. So as I share my comments about the hard work of the committee that's gone into the recommendations, I'd like you to consider the strong financial position that our community enjoys and the opportunity that that financial stewardship gives our community in determining the kind of town that we want to live in the future. Our finances have allowed us to provide such things as a new Oakville Hospital. For those of you who enjoyed the Twitter feeds of everybody moving to the new hospital over the weekend, that was only possible in part because of the efforts of this town and our efforts at controlling our financial destiny. We also have an enviable position with respect to maintaining in a timely way our infrastructure. We set an overall tax increase in line with inflation guideline for our staff, and I'm proud to say that we've done this yet again. The recommended Town of Oakville property tax increase is 2.4%, which when combined with the expected Region of Halton and education portions of the property tax increase creates the overall 1.66% increase that you see at the top of the page there. This is lower than the latest Bank of Canada Core Inflation Index and just above the latest Consumer Price Index for the Toronto area of 1.3%. And the forecasts for the remainder of 2016 continue to be in the 2% range, and going into 2017, we also expect to see a 2% range of inflation. Just want to remind people that the property tax bill is made up of 3 components. It's different in every municipality. Some municipalities are single tier, we are 2-tier, and depending on where you are, you need to calculate the overall figure in a different way. I bring this up because it's important when trying to determine an apples-to-apples comparison between yourself and some other municipality that might be out there. The 2016 recommended budget is recommending the lowest increase among our neighbors. These figures are all from approved or forecasted budgets for 2016 and are presented on a comparable basis. That is to say, they are apples to apples. And I'll note that the higher figures for the other municipalities show the pressures that they're now all facing with respect to attempting to deal with the unfunded infrastructure renewal needs and construction needs that they all have. As a result, they're likely to all continue to outpace inflation in future years. Mississauga, which is near the bottom of this list, for example, would need to increase its annual tax levy by 67% to close its infrastructure gap. It's an incredible figure, 67%. Oakville, by contrast, has an asset management plan, and it's already fully funded. I also want to highlight that a number of municipalities have not yet announced their 2016 expectations, like Hamilton and Toronto. Toronto is coming out tomorrow. These municipalities will only be approving their budgets partway into 2016, and I want to commend all of you for having the foresight in being prepared to pass your budget tonight. It's good governance practice, and it gives your staff all the information they need to know what they'll be working with in terms of resources during the entire fiscal year that they'll be working in. I also want to highlight the introduction of other types of fees in the GTA that will make comparing taxes across municipalities more difficult in the future. Mississauga, for example, here, has now introduced a storm water charge, and as you know, Toronto has long had a municipal land transfer tax, which, as I understand it, the rest of the municipalities won't have the opportunity to use, but it does make comparisons more difficult. Toronto also has a waste management fee, and they're not alone in that. So these differences begin to make straight comparisons more difficult over time. The storm water charge in Mississauga, for example, I understand equates to them having an 11% increase on their local share of their taxes. We're providing services that residents need and value. We're proud to be preserving important services for our local families and building and maintaining our infrastructure. As I said, unlike some jurisdictions where infrastructure funding is very inadequate to repair aging roads, sewers, and utilities. Some of the highlights of the budget include implementation of Year 1 of our transit service plan, which we discussed earlier as a council, resources to meet recreational program needs, the introduction of RFID technology in library branches, funding for enhanced after-call handling, and additional funding to continue to support our infrastructure renewal needs. We've also listened to what citizens have been saying. While we did have a very limited number of individuals at our open houses and at our delegation days in front of the Budget Committee, our budget and our recommendations have changed as a result of that public debate, the discussion and feedback, which we have been receiving all year round. The recommended budget provides an additional $3,600 in grants for Sports Oakville and an additional $3,600 in grants for the Oakville Arts Council. Staff will be conducting a cultural plan update over the next year, and we can expect to see recommendations out of that that will deal with the grant processes for the upcoming years. Committee has also recommended maintaining the number of council Let's Talk Oakville newsletters at 2 per year. I want to say that we are keeping our house in order through the ongoing discipline that Council has imposed using a 1% capital levy and the additional funds that Council has approved over a number of years now to deal with our annual paving. We now have a high quality set of infrastructure that I think we can all be proud of and we can afford to maintain. We have reformed our funding for infrastructure renewal so that we're in a unique position among municipalities. Our funding for replacing decaying infrastructure more than matches its rate of depreciation without the need for issuing debt. I know of no other municipalities who are in this very, very enviable position. Our neighboring municipalities are issuing significant levels of debt in order to maintain existing infrastructure, not build new, but maintain. This debt is limiting their future ability to make choices about what kind of community they want to have in the future. And I want to thank all of you for maintaining your support for the long-term financial planning and asset management that we do. Our financial health is strong and sustained, as I started out with at the beginning of my discussion. Our recommendations advocate appropriate debt management as well. The vast majority of our debt is not tax-supported debt. Our hospital debt is being supported by non-tax revenue at Oakville Enterprises Corporation, and development charges, harbors, and the soccer club are supporting other elements of our debt. The recommended $6 million in new debt in 2016 is in fact supported by energy savings generated internally by the LED conversion project. And so that debt is self-funding, so to speak. Our plan reduces the remaining tax levy supported debt by over $2 million to $6 million. And for the record, this number was 4 times higher at $24 million in 2006. So Council over the years has been whittling that number down farther and farther. No debt is required for infrastructure renewal because our infrastructure renewal funding policy sets aside money each year for the replacement of assets as they come to the end of their useful lives. And just for the record, here are the projected figures for Oakville's outstanding debt at the end of 2016. Regarding the town's only portion of the total increase, that's the 2.4% figure that you see in this chart. About half of it is for maintaining our existing service levels. That's the 1.16% figure in the town base operating budget, and you'll note that's less than the local rate of inflation. About the other half, approximately, is relating to renewing our infrastructure, and that's the 1.15% that you get combining the capital levy and the funding for road resurfacing. As I said, all of this funding is there to ensure that our infrastructure doesn't crumble and that we're not unfairly passing costs on to our children or grandchildren. And as I said, that 1.66% is the lowest among all of our peers. The 2016 budget includes total operating expenditures of just under $300 million. I won't go into the details, but you'll note that the majority of the costs relate to programs and services that affect the daily lives of our residents. They include such things as our road maintenance, our storm sewers, our fire department. They include libraries, parks, our recreation centers, Oakville Transit, and many, many others. I want citizens to also understand that property taxes are not the only source of funding that we have. In fact, less than 58% will come from property taxes this coming year. By comparison, in 2003, when at least 3 of us were elected to council, 66% of our revenue came from property taxation. So we have, over the years, made a shift in our revenue source. The rest will come from other sources, most notably various fees and charges that we have for our programs and services, and that makes up just under a quarter of our funding. Of the $172 million in tax dollars that are being raised next year, the largest share will actually be going to renewing our capital infrastructure, followed closely by our fire services. Of the capital funding in 2016, a substantial portion relates to getting around. In fact, road improvements, road maintenance, and transit make up 3 of the top 5 of our largest projects this coming year. And our road resurfacing budget will once again be the largest in Oakville history at $7.8 million. To put this capital budget in perspective, the 10-year budget, capital budget forecast for council, that council in fact has already endorsed in principle, is $1 billion. And the nearly $100 million before you tonight makes up just under 10%, and the rest is spread roughly evenly across the 10-year forecast. Speaking of forecasts, combined with the region and the provincial shares, the combined forecast overall increases for 2017 and 18 will be 2.31% and 2.72%. As in previous years, we'll be reviewing the details of these forecasts, and I'm confident that we'll be able to improve upon these numbers. As a reason for my optimism, I'll tell you that last year we were forecasting 2.39% for 2016, and tonight we're speaking about 1.66%. Council has directed staff to prepare the 2017 and 2018 budgets in line with inflation. and will continue to work towards those important goals. To that end, staff will continue with their regular performance-based, program-based budgeting reviews that have already identified millions of dollars in savings over the years. I also expect to see some service level reviews to be conducted over the next 2 years to help us meet these objectives. So in summary, I'd like to thank all of the members of our staff who have spent a great deal of time preparing the 2016 budget. In particular, I'd like to thank Gord Lalonde, who's over on the far side of me there, and Nancy Sully for their work during the process. Nancy does have a great team of finance professionals working with her behind the scenes. Without them, it would be much more difficult for us to make good decisions about the kinds of programs and the levels of services and the kinds of funding that are required for those programs and services. I'd also like to thank the various members of the public who have come before us, both in person at our open houses and in front of council and committees for delegations, but also through email and phone calls over the year, as they truly help guide us in our decision making. And finally, my council colleagues, I'd like to thank you for your trust and support during the budget process once again. You've all taken the time to review the budget documents. I've seen all of you at various times, either at committee or outside of committee, discussing the various elements of it, asking questions on behalf of your constituents. So I know that all of you have represented your constituents well and thoroughly during the process. So I'd like to thank you for allowing me to lead this process again. I'd like to recognize Mayor Burton and Councillors Elgar, Duddick, and Knoll for their efforts on the 2016 Budget Committee. And Your Worship, it'd be my pleasure to move the recommendations of the Budget Committee at the appropriate time, along with the minor amendment that's before you regarding the rates and fees.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Lischina. Well, let's spread it out among the wards. Councillor Lapworth, thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Elgar.
Yeah, thank you very much through you, Mr. Mayor, to our budget chief. It's regarding the Bronte Library that was not put in the 2016 budget. And I just wondered if you can clarify going forward if the money will, like if there's any place where it's been put in for maybe next year, because I believe there's a review being done of the library master plan.
That's
and everything
correct.
is contingent on the master plan.
Yes.
I just wonder if you could mention that, because
So the committee's recommendation was to push that to 2017 for the time being. That allows us to go through the review process in 2016 with respect to library services. So the funding is available for consideration in the next year's budget process.
I thank you very much for the clarification. I'm sure Councillor Robinson will be very happy to hear that, too.
Yes, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Well, let me leap into this. This doesn't mean it's been promised. And we have to be very careful about understanding that when we, it's a placeholder. And if the review shows that it belongs somewhere else, it may very well belong somewhere else. Council makes those decisions when it gets to them. And we're not making that decision tonight.
Well, as I said, it's there for consideration. It doesn't mean that it's been approved, but there's funding, there's a funding envelope there, and whether council ends up approving a library in Bronte is still to be determined based on that discussion.
So I know Councillor Robinson will be happy to know that the envelope is there. I just hope that he understands we haven't opened the envelope yet. All right. Any other discussion before I call the vote? Shall I call the vote? Councillor Elgar.
I think we all owe gratitude to Councillor Adams, who has spent an awful lot of his own personal time preparing this and getting it ready for us tonight, and the number he's coming in at. I think we all should give him a hand of congratulations. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The lesson here for people who want to be on municipal councils is if you make the mistake of having an MBA, you'll be put to work. All right, with that, I will call the vote. All those in favor of the 2016 budget as presented? Any opposed? And that does carry unanimously. Congratulations, Budget Chief.
Thank you very much.
Now, as far as I know, the Community Services Committee report is available for adoption as is. We have separations and discussions to do on administrative services. Councillor Elgar moves it. Councillor Hutchins seconds it. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? CSC is adopted. Now, Council, we need to consider item 9 separately from ASC, and we require 2 motions. The first motion is that the previous decision of council made on October 26, 2015, to excuse a Committee of Adjustment member from his or her appointment to the committee be reconsidered, and that Section 6.57 of the procedure bylaw be waived in order that this matter be considered this evening. And if we have 2/3 of the entire council, which is 9, voting for that, then we would move the second motion from ASC, and that would be that the Committee of Adjustment member noted in the confidential Appendix A to the staff report dated September 15 be reappointed to the Committee of Adjustment for the period of December 14th, 2015 to November 30th, 2018. May I have a mover and seconder for the first of those motions? Councillor Lischena, Councillor Lapworth. May I call the vote? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. And now may I have a mover and seconder for the second motion? Councillor O'Meara, thank you. Councillor Hutchins, thank you. If that pen wiggle was a second, thank you. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you. That carries. Now, that completes the committee reports. We have no consent items, public or consent.
Sorry, don't have a motion for the rest of the AS.
Oh, I still need a motion for the rest of ASC. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And a seconder. Councillor Giddings and Councillor Hutchins, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That report is adopted. We still don't have any consent items, but we do have one discussion item on the agenda tonight, and that is the quarterly report by Oakville Enterprises Corporation. And for this purpose, I would welcome to the lectern Rob Lister, the President and CEO of Oakville Enterprises Corporation, regarding their quarterly report.
Thank you, Mayor Burton, members of council. This evening I have with me John Mitchell, who is a director from our board of directors. And members of staff, I have Jim Collins, Scott Moody, Mary Caputi, Simon Abbott, Vivek Radhakrishnan, and I'm going to ask Mike Brown, Chief Operating Officer from Oakville Hydro, to come forward to present the quarterly update. So, Mike.
Good evening, Mayor Burton and members of council. I'm pleased to be in front of you this evening presenting Oakville Enterprises Corporation's quarterly report or update. Just get back here to start. The first one I wanted to bring to your attention is our large solar farm. As you recall, last year it went into operation in Picton, Sunny Shores. It's a 15 megawatt solar facility just north of Picton. And just a reminder of its 47,000 ground-mounted solar panels, been operating all year. The generation for the year has been estimated 17.6 gigawatt hours. And that's enough electricity to actually power 1,800 homes through that period. And the revenue noted for the year in question is $7.7 million. I highlight, too, the fact that there is Infrastructure Ontario has created a YouTube, and Infrastructure Ontario is actually our project lender for this facility. So they've created a YouTube that is quite a commendable thing to look at. In addition, furthering our contribution to electricity generation in Ontario on our competitive energy services front, I would remind you of the 5 roof-mounted solar panel installations that we have in place. We have the ones associated at North Oakville, so that's a 16-mile rec center. Up in Neagawa, we have the Glen Abbey Community Center as well as River Oaks in play. And then there's the one on Town Hall here, as well as over at the Redwood Square facility where we reside. The Milton facility is a landfill gas generation, and that's Halton Region landfill. And then on Manitoulin Island, we have a run-of-river hydroelectric project, Kagwan Falls. It's in service as well. And then the Picton one has already been identified. So in total for 2015, the estimated annual revenues from generation CESG is $8.8 million, and the total contribution on gigawatt hours is 27.1. 2,800 homes powered. So, a strong movement in green energy. I want to move on and talk about electric vehicles. What you see in front of you is an initiative that we've launched in November, and as it's highlighted on screen, it's an exclusive opportunity for owners of electric vehicles in Oakville. We jointly with Burlington Hydro, as well as 2 other back office suppliers, are part of a successful smart grid fund project, pilot project. And as a result of that, we've launched the idea of a residential EV charger pilot out to members of the community. It's a single-year pilot. We're actually looking at a managed charger situation. They're level 2 chargers, and our ability to actually monitor the impact. So I think at this stage, we launched it in November. We've had 6 or 7 requests. We've got 3 actually in process, so we're moving along rather well. Maybe as a point of interest, I may have mentioned this to council before, but Oakville has one of the highest per capita densities. In fact, it is the highest per capita density of EVs in Ontario, and most likely very close in Canada. We have over 140 EVs by record, and I think I noted that this is from MTO records as such, so it's a pretty close or accurate proxy in our mind. So these managed chargers would be available at a lease rate, and we're encouraging the public to step and assist us in this particular venture. Another point of interest, we've been talking in the past about looking to the future, and I would highlight that the future is now. Knowing when your power is out, we've been working behind the scenes for the last 18 to 24 months on pulling together an outage management system. We've been working it live operationally for the last 2 months internally at Oakville Hydro, and as of tomorrow, we're actually making it presentable and available to the public. It's, as it says, it's an interactive based tool. It's a mobile-friendly device mechanism. It'll identify, as it says, current status on outages throughout our system, both planned and unplanned. So we're pretty excited about this. It's been a very complex venture, to say the least, but we believe that this is definitely a large move in the right direction. Maps will be updated automatically, and I've just highlighted here, this is not an eye test. I'm not expecting you to read these, but what this does is it characterized by the icons, locations of outages, and when you land on those icons, it'll identify the status of the outage, root cause, situations such as crews dispatch, vehicle accidents, things of that nature, and estimated time of restoral. So, and this would be for both planned outages, where we do system upgrades, as well as unplanned outages, where the system is actually impacted by external influences. On the safety and reliability front, I wanted to acknowledge maybe, or just remind the council of the fact that safety is our first priority at Oakville Hydro and actually at Oakville Enterprises Corporation. OEC has over 3.5 million hours of work without a lost time on-duty injury, which is a pretty impressive number in the industry. Oakville Hydro, the local utility here, is over 800,000 as we speak. So again, very commendable numbers. I think it speaks very solidly, and I know we put safety culture at the top end of everything we do. We recognize our employees on a regular basis for it, and we continue to strive to update their skills on a regular basis. So it's, I just wanted to characterize that in front of council tonight. From a systems, that's an operating systems reliability perspective, in 2014, Oakville Hydro and the town of Oakville by extension experienced some of the best system reliability records on record, actually, in historical perspective. This year, to the end of November, we're in the same, almost the exact same position. What we've characterized here is we've said the annual average outage duration of 27 minutes. That's over the year to date. That's consistent with 2014. If I was to characterize this and look at it in respect to other large utilities that we use in our broad comparator, the average of the large utilities that we would compare to would be about, I'm going to say, We're over 119 minutes, so we're definitely well under that sort of. So it is maintaining an exceptional industry-leading performance, and I'm very proud of both the system, the way it operates, and the folks that we have in the business that maintain it. As part of our system reliability, I would like to bring to your attention, it's a project that's been going on behind the scenes for the last 15 months. As part of our capital investment in 14 and 15, we've acquired, and now we're in the stages of commissioning, or installing and commissioning, a standby transformer at our Glenorchy Municipal Transfer Station. The transformer station, as you know, sits up on 6th line just north of the 407. We're in the final stages of commissioning that large facility that you see right there, and it goes operational as of the end of this week. So it builds in another layer of backup and reliability, especially as we start to see the significance of the growth in North Oakville. Well, that didn't go well. Oh yeah, there's. Thank you. I'll let you connect through. Thanks. Great, thanks. Yep, no problem. Thank you. A very timely topic is tree trimming. We do this as part of our annual line clearance to maintain the safe and reliable distance for our overhead primary lines. We've been very effective and I want to acknowledge the strong collaboration with the town of Oakville's forestry team. We've been working with the town for the last 6 years on this whole program. We launched an initial public session last January. We're doing a second one on January the 6th at QE Park Community Center. And this is a public education around where are we actually doing our tree trimming this year, and allow the customers or the residents of Oakville to ask any questions to forestry staff or ourselves on what our plans are, or even specifically in their locality, what's the impact. So looking forward to having the public attend that session, and we'll start very quickly in January post that, and we'll run through to about May with our annual clearance. And as it's highlighting, it's all about safety and system reliability, and it's important for us to continue down that journey. Over to our customers, wanted to remind Council the fact that our annual customer satisfaction survey results came in mid-year. We achieved an A rating for the year 2015, which actually is 92% rating, so it's very well positioned in our peer groups. In addition, in regards to customers on the commercial front, we hosted in November a breakfast meeting of a large number of, I'm going to say about 10 members, 10 commercial customers in Oakville. We also conducted a tour through our control room. We had conversations with them about the importance of our services to them and what can we do to improve in that space. And we'll do more of this in 2016, but it was a great inaugural launch to connect with our commercial customers. We took this as an opportunity to make a presentation, and you'll see the photo there, to Rollpack Packaging. They were presented with a check for $101,976 as a rebate from Conservation and Demand Management, the OPA, associated with retrofits that they did in their jurisdiction. So it's substantial energy conservation, so this definitely makes a difference. A bit about our employees. Our annual employee engagement survey results have been very strong, and they continue to be above the benchmark scores that we have in our industry. And it really does guide us in our continuous improvement efforts with our employees. We have a lot of employee-based activities, not only in Oakville, but also across Oakville Enterprises corporations in the various geographies in which we actually reside. So I feel very strongly about the level of personal engagement and understanding what our employees' wishes and concerns and what they really do appreciate. In addition, I bring to your attention a memorial tree initiative that we launched this year. We planted oak trees in Coronation Park in memory of Oakville Hydro employees that have passed away during their employment at Oakville Hydro. And you see Rob actually providing some comments to the family members. This was done on December the 8th and the 9th, and we had 4 former employees. We planted a tree for each of them with a brass plaque and a granite base. So it just an acknowledgement that they're all part of the Oakville Hydro family. Community. Oakville Hydro is very pleased and proud to say in Oakville that we play a very active role in the community. We're part of the Christmas season for the annual tree lighting ceremony, and we always take great pride in being represented by both our employees and our families during the annual Christmas Santa Claus parade. So there's some photos there that represent that. We conducted a Take Our Kids to Work Day, and we had over 33 students from various high schools in Oakville attend. It was a full day. We walked them through careers in our industry, presentations, activities. They were taken on tours. And I'm very pleased to highlight that from a United Way Oakville perspective, employee fundraising in 2015, collectively, our employees have reached a remarkable contribution, as noted, of $30,000. That's all I have to present, but I definitely open it up for questions from the council.
Thank you very much, Mike. We've got questions from Councillor Lapworth and Councillor Elgar.
Thank you very much for your presentation. You continue to bring us good news.
Great. Thank
So
you.
my question is regarding the EVs, the electric vehicles.
Correct.
Do you have a calculation that would tell us what the retail cost of the electricity would be per kilometre versus gas? Do you have that calculation by any chance?
I wouldn't have it ready with me as such. You're saying the comparison? Definitely I could get that as you're saying the differential between electricity versus gas at this stage.
Yeah, because I do understand it's a fairly good comparison, and as if more people knew about it, they would probably be more, affordable to buy an electric vehicle.
Well, and your point is well taken, because I think one of the things that we've really strongly promoted is we put it on our website. We're using there's a larger association called Plug and Drive. So promoting this as such, I know there's a lot of impetus now with the whole Paris Accord, et cetera. Yes, I definitely think that would help us in educating our customers as such, but also I think enticing them to to see the value of green energy. So we'll look in and we'll add that to our website. Thank you.
Councillor Lapworth, I can tell you that with my electric vehicle, I get 5 to 8 kilometers per kilowatt hour, and that seems to depend upon how hot or cold it is outside, and also how gently I drive. So I guess, but that's way cheaper than gasoline. And I'm very vexed at how I'll get 8 one day and 5 the next, and I go, what am I doing wrong? Councillor Elgar?
It's the pedal you're hitting too hard. That's what's, Anyway, thank you very much for the presentation. One question, you said tomorrow you've got the system going live for know when power is out.
Right.
Where would I go to, and where would the public go to have a look at that?
Very good question.
Really good to see.
Actually, I was going to mention it, and I didn't. It's www.oakvilleoutages.ca. So when you click on that, it'll bring up the outage map.
Oakvilleoutages.ca.
Correct.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I think that'll be a lot of fun for people to look at.
Yeah, it's an interesting challenge for us to bring all the systems together, but we're pretty keen on being able to demonstrate that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hutchins and then Councillor Grant.
Thank you. On your reliability, you were bringing in this new standby transformer.
Right.
I think. Have you looked at also the security of the other transformers and things that, from the point of view, one has to start looking at these things because of global issues, as you well know.
Yeah, and Councillor Hutchins, I think your point's well taken. It's the whole idea of what would happen if
Exactly.
certain acts were taken that could compromise its operations. I would say from a security point of view, it's a secure fence structure. I mean, we have video surveillance at that site as such. Protection for the units, and I know that some of the jurisdictions in the U.S., most notably on the West Coast, they're now looking at things like bulletproof casings and things of that nature. But I would say ours is ongoing surveillance and management of the facility that we've got up there to that extent.
Well, that's all very well, but a truck driven through a
Yeah.
chain link fence and then a fire started. I mean, if
Yeah.
these facilities are right next to each other, they could take out, even though you put in a secondary one for reliability, but if it's next to the first one, I mean, I don't know how it's laid out,
Yeah.
but there are issues with that.
Yeah, actually, good point. Our facility is actually I'm going to say it's about 1,000 feet off the 6th line. It sits in the field. You're right. Somebody, if they were so inclined, could probably break through that gate accordingly. We have a dual transformer system that actually operates, and then there's a backup station accordingly.
Are they both in the same location?
Yeah, they're within. Yes, they are. But maybe just to add maybe a little bit more assurance for you. In Oakville, what we have is 4 Hydro One transformer stations at the 4 quadrants of Oakville. We built Glenorchy up in the north central, so we actually, in essence, have 5 that actually service Oakville. And maybe as a point of interest for council, we're probably one of the most flexible utilities in the way of moving load around. So if one of those stations were to go down, we can effectively transfer that load off that station to other stations, our own, so we have that sort of capability. We actually operate that with Hydro One on a regular basis. As they go for transmission system outages, they ask Oakville Hydro, can we actually unload, say, Glenorchy, and then move the load somewhere else so they can do that. So we're kind of exercising that on a regular basis. We have a fair bit of remote switching in our system that we can actually activate that from our control room. So if something untoward like that happened, we could move load around to significantly mitigate that. I don't know if that would maybe give you the...
No, it certainly gives some confidence that
Sure.
the electrical supply will continue. I also had one other question about tree pruning.
Sure.
Global warming issues. We're getting more and more warm days, which means more swings from freezing, thawing, which will bring in more ice.
Right.
We had that big ice storm a couple of years ago, which took out a lot of power because we've got lines stretched or under trees, or particularly in the Ward 3 area and Ward
Right.
2 and the older areas of Oakville. Is there any thought of doing anything to try and mitigate that? Because as global warming increases, so those freeze-thaw issues are going to increase as well.
Yeah, it's always a concern for us. The ice storm was a stark reminder of what nature can do if you're not ready and prepared. So our tree trimming program, as I said, it's for safety and reliability. Safety because of worker safety and public safety, but reliability is to give it that zone of clearance that in case branches do come down, that they would be minimized. When we set up the tree trimming program with the town's forestry team, we actually go out and jointly inspect the whole route, and we decide to which extent do we have to trim back, keeping into account the integrity of the tree structure, et cetera. So making sure that we actually minimize the potential impact of overhanging branches and things of that nature, and the structural integrity of the tree system itself. So we try to take that into account. The other thing too is in certain areas of Oakville where we've had some of our primary in the rear lots, we've actually been in a program for the last, I'm going to say 6 to 7 years. We've actually moved it to the front, and we've done undergrounding so that the higher voltage feeder systems in those areas where it's overhead are actually undergrounded now, and the secondary systems are still up there, but that's a lower impact, more isolated, and more local.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on the question parade, Councillor Grant, Councillor O'Meara, Councillor Lischina.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Back to the power outages reports. How much have you done testing of the platform on a mobile device, essentially?
We have tested it. As I said, we've been using it internally, locally. It's as anything as you roll out, you'll run
Right.
up into glitches as you go. So we're prepared for those things, but we've vetted it with our own IT ops team to make sure that it fits. It has, we're in the process of upgrading our capacity for simultaneous hits on the system, but we think that we've got enough there, obviously, to start initially rolling it out. So our view on this one, we're at like 95% prime time, making sure that everything's ready so that 95 to 98% everything is actually in place. If we do run into anything, that's part of I would almost call it, Councillor Grant, it's almost like a soft launch.
Yeah.
We're looking at it as more getting it out, get some user experience, get us our feet, because to be quite frank with you, this is one of the first ones that our SCADA system provider is actually developing with us. So it's kind of, we're working through this together. But I've got a lot of confidence that it will provide that.
Great, just because, just a wild thought, I'm betting that if people have a power outage, they're not going to be checking their computer for the maps. Just so the online stuff might be a little more important.
Yeah. Good one.
As well, given the excellent Twitter feeds from Hydro during the outages, I would hope that possibly a link would be included with that
Yeah,
as you go
absolutely.
along.
Yeah.
So, all right, thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. You prompted me to go see if it's up, and there it is.
And you're probably,
And there's no outages right now.
I was just going to say. No, that's actually a
It's a
live,
beautiful
that's a
story.
live link. So I was going to highlight that. I didn't see any outages, so that's a good sign.
No outages showing, and that's a good thing. And Councillor O'Meara.
I think actually Councillor Grant raised one of the issues. I was kind of laughing internally about the irony of your power going out and being told to go online and find out where it is or what's going on with it.
Yeah.
One program I don't hear too much about anymore is a peak saver program. Is there any update on that, or do we know what the uptake is, or how many people, are there people still signing up for it, or are we promoting it anymore?
Now, from an active promotion, I believe that, Mary, any comment? You may want to come to that. Go ahead, Mary.
I think our total uptick for Peak Saver is about 7,000 to 8,000 in Oakville. That program is was funded by the ISO, formerly the OPA, and the ISO is now doing some research on whether that is the correct program to use. So they're sort of taking a break right now, and they have a working group to develop something either more enhanced. So right now they haven't extended that Peak Saver program.
So they haven't extended it, and you just mentioned they're finding if they're going back with a working group to see if it's the appropriate
Well, if there's
program?
something different that they can utilize that for all residential customers, because they've seen that it hasn't escalated in the last couple of years. So we had a pretty good uptick when it first started in 2007, I believe, and then it sort of plateaued. So there's sort of going back to the working group, and there's different technologies and different thermostats that have come out since. So they want to make sure that they're have the latest technology to roll out to customers. So we're waiting right now, and I'm assuming early in the new year they will come out with their new program, should they roll it out.
Okay,
So
that's
we'll
perfect.
let you know when that
Well,
happens.
as the owner of one of those thermostats, it would be nice to know if there's what's going on, if there's something new coming out
Yeah.
or something.
So they'll still be supported.
Okay.
They are still being supported, and if anyone has any issues, they can still come to us. But right now, we're sort of on a hold on what the new framework will bring, because we are going on a new framework in 2016.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Just for fun, Counselor, you have one, I have one. By hands, anybody else got a peak saver? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, half of council approximately. So you have better uptake with us and still not 100%. So I suppose that proves what the IESO is looking at. All right, thank you very much. The next one is Councillor Lischina.
Thank you very much for that informative presentation. Is the OEC have any plans in the next year or two for any additional solar panels on town property?
We have several Fit-for projects that we may be involved in as part of an application process. Town property, I'm not so sure at this stage. I do know that there are several projects.
I was just thinking that Iroquois Ridge wasn't on your list there earlier. Thank you.
Well, maybe you can make a deal later. Councillor Giddings.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. You had 3 zones up on the map earlier on. We got the email earlier today talking about the meeting coming up at QEP, as you referenced in January. 3 zones in Oakville.
Right.
And I know that we were trimmed after the last storm. I think we were one of the earlier areas. Will the crews be coming back to Zone 3, or is that area done? Just curious in terms of letting our residents know.
This year, so the 2016 program has Zone 3 and part of Zone 2 as part of it. There's some catch up in Zone 2, and then Zone 3 is the focus area for this year. There is some more, yes.
There were new standards put in place, I understand, in terms of, or best practices in terms of cutting back around lines?
I wouldn't call them new standards, Councillor Giddings. It's, what we did is we went back to the basics and the fundamentals around what clearance are we obligated to provide. So in the past, there's been some relaxation, if you wish. We've been allowing some of the tree growth to continue on. Our view is you get into a 3-year cycle, and a 3-year cycle does 2 things. One, it helps to maintain the health of the tree because you're actually trimming it in a good cycle frequency, and so a lot of the extra growth doesn't start and then it gets truncated off. And the second is it keeps a good movement. So there's about 8,800 trees per zone, and that's the way we position it with the Forest of Trees. So that's a pretty good, well-balanced program over the 3-year period. So the 3 zones as such.
All right, and my other question was concerning, I understand, happy to see that the mobile app will be available. What about for the residents that may not be on Twitter or have mobile apps? We had a rich discussion several years ago in terms of the phone lines, and we were undertaking whether the town or Service Oakville could work with Hydro to assist on that, just to be able to provide more horsepower.
Yeah, and in regards to, and if I can maybe just understand, so just incoming phones, phone lines calling in, we've actually done a lot behind the scenes, and maybe I can just update council on it. We actually have a firm called Power Assist, who actually are outage call agents. They're experts in this system. Our calls go into Power Assist, and they're trained on looking at our system, and they have additional capacity for concurrent calls in. So we have increased capacity on our inbounds, and then any outbounds as such, well beyond what we had back in December 2013. So that's to kind of take into that additional
Much
surge
appreciated,
that
and that's seamless. Somebody calls Oakville Hydro.
Yes, absolutely.
And the attendant would see that that's
Absolutely.
an Oakvillian calling, and they'd be able to talk about
Absolutely.
what's in place.
They're very much in tune with, in fact, what we do is we brought these Power Assist customer service agents, we brought them out to Oakville Hydro, toured through our facility. They're very familiar with what we do. In fact, they align with our procedures, so it's seamless from that point of view. So during call volume, say call volumes ramped up, they couldn't handle it, we would absolutely be there as well for additional add-on for our own customer service reps so we would ramp up accordingly as such during high emergency state. So our goal is to make sure that those customers that still want to reach us during outages will have the capacity, one, They get into our outage call agents, who actually, by the way, will input to the power system, the outage management system, the same as ourselves. So that'll be instantaneous update on the case so that they're actually recorded in the system.
Good to hear. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, if there are no further questions, thank you to Oakville Enterprises and Oakville Hydro for your fine work and 2 years of outstanding reliability.
Oh, great.
Everybody celebrates that. And if I could, and Mr. Brown, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm looking for a mover and seconder to receive. Councillor Grant and Councillor Lapworth, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That's received, and we thank you all very much. Council, we have no other items on our agenda before we get to new business, and I have a little bit of new business, and I'll wait till any other new business is mentioned, if there is any. And seeing none, I'm going to leap into the vacuum there and say, it's with a great deal of pleasure that I announce that I'm issuing a proclamation of Moonshine Cafe Day, January 9th, 2016, and I'm announcing tonight so that they'll be able to make hay out of it over the month ahead. Whereas the Moonshine Cafe opened its doors in Kerr Village on January 9th, 2006, whereas it supports, encourages, and promotes artists in music and the visual arts, whereas it has created a welcoming venue to showcase music across all genres for the enjoyment of young and old, whereas it represents the thriving spirit of the Kerr Village community and has achieved the highly regarded reputation of being one of the finest small venues in the country, I now therefore do hereby proclaim Saturday, January 9th, as Moonshine Cafe Day in the town of Oakville of the province of Ontario, and I invite everyone to join me there to help them celebrate their anniversary. And I'm going to ask Councillor Duddick to present this to John and Jane. And Council, I now ask you to think about regional reports and question period, if there are any. Seeing none, is there a request for report tonight? Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you, Your Worship. There is. The request for report is that Economic Development staff report back in Q1 of 2016 on options to address the role of tourism as a town function to support Oakville's Main Street businesses, coordination with the BIAs and visitor-related industries and events. And this request for report stems out of ongoing discussions from the Budget Committee and from Visit Oakville and the work that they were doing. And I have worked with Commissioner Closey on this and Councillor Adams, and I'm happy to move that request for report.
Thank you, Councillor Adams.
Just wanted to thank Councillor O'Meara for bringing it forward with me. I wanted to make sure that our staff, in the review that they do, that they're considering the question of should we be in the business, and if so, what parts of the business should we be in? That's really what it gets down to.
All righty, then any other discussion? Councillor Duddick.
Just for the benefit of those watching at home, Q1 is the first quarter. We sometimes get using a lot of these acronyms and people don't understand.
Good for you for catching that. With your agreement, I'll put to vote all those in favor, opposed if any, and the request for report is approved. Now, we need a mover and seconder for the bylaws as listed in the agenda and the addendum. And I have several hands here, Councillor Gidding and Councillor Duddick. All those in favor? Opposed, if any. The bylaws are adopted. That completes our agenda. It completes our year. I want to thank everybody for how diligently you've worked all year long. This is the end of the first year of our 4-year term. It's been terrific working with you, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you over the next 3 years, and we are adjourned.